Good morning, it's Norma Cowie. It's 9 o'clock on a Wednesday morning, and I'm here with Norma Talks. Today, I wanted to talk about handling change. When life presents you with different elements of change, whether it's residential, work, relationships, all of that means it's hard often for the system. Even if it's something you want, even if it's something you're looking for, even if it's, yay, 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 I'm really happy about this. It's still about letting go of the past and moving on into the future. Change can be welcomed, but it always has some adjustments which are going to be made, even if you're super excited about every part of it. Excuse me, and moving forward. Now, when we go to leave something behind, even if we're super happy about it and we really want to do that, it's still daunting because we do not know all the circumstances. We do not know what's really coming up. Oh, in our minds, we have an ideal value of how it'll be and what it will look like and all those kind of things. And those are our expectations. Expectations we all have, but it's when we have to deal with reality sometimes the expectation, which is up here, crashes into reality and it's like, oh my goodness, what have I done? Or what do I do now? Those two thought patterns, excuse me. You wouldn't know that I worked away again on my voice this morning. Anyway, so we're leaving behind something. Something is changing. And of course, if you're going through every year of your life, everything is always changing on your birthday for one reason or another, even if you don't necessarily want those numbers as they add up. Now, what I did was I asked the tarot actually what was a good topic for today, and I had two symbols come up. I'm going to talk about them. One was the death symbol. And the second one of my favorites, gotta make sure the light's not right on it, is the Ace of Cups. Now, what does that tell us? That circumstances change. The death symbol is always about beginning something new, like you've come through a war, you've come through a watershed, or you've come through something where there has been, because in the symbol we've got a dead person, and then we've got different stages of also acknowledging the transition. So death doesn't mean the actual end of the life. It means the end of a circumstance, an end of how things have been. And now you're in that in-between time of moving into the new. They're not always the easiest things to do. And as I said, very often you want them, you look for them, you've created them, you know, this is where we're heading, this is where we're going. But then there comes this element of we can't go back. The past is gone. So we can only go forward. And sometimes the adjustments that are needing to be made in going forward is a little more than we anticipated. We always think we have every, T crossed, I's dotted, figured out. Only to find that we haven't at all. It may look fine for a little while, and then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, what have I done? Where am I? What do I do now? Panic can set in. Most people in their lives go through at least 3 massive changes of some time or other. If they just have a normal, might say a lifelong with normality. And every one of them is the same. You're leaving something behind. You maybe just moving, you bought a new house and you're moving into this new house while you're leaving a neighborhood that you know and understand. It may be quite close geographically, but the neighborhood could be quite different. There's adjustments there. So what we're looking at is how do we adjust to newness? How do we adjust to things that we think in our head is going to be this way, and it turns out it's that way? And that's where actually the other symbol that I got, the Ace of Cups, comes in. We have to watch our attitudes. We have to recognize our way we approach life, what our belief system is. Do we believe that we're supported energetically? Do we believe in guides? Do we believe in angels? Do we believe in an ultimate power? Do we believe in whatever? A lot of the people pray every day to know and understand and have their path easy. The paths are not always easy because a lot of this down here often is, I feel, it's like we're working things out, and sometimes we have situations come up that we have to deal with, and it's not something we look for or want or anything else, but we are in transition and we're in growth, and that's what we need to remember. How do we grow? Through adversity. Well, we could not grow through adversity. We could basically shut down and kind of what I call go away. You're still there. You're still going through the motions, but you're not present. You're not working on the issue. You're not figuring out what the problem is. You're not getting a solution. We often need solutions. You see, we have a tendency to look at life through pink colored glasses. We have expectations. Now, how I used to teach about expectations, as I said, it's like an expectation is like this. We have something up here, but reality is down here. So our expectation, this is what it's going to be. This is how it's going to look. This is what it's going to do. This is what, et cetera, et cetera. And then the reality, what reality is, comes along. So here's your main line down here, and here's your expectation up here. And then it crashes into reality. Now, what do we do with that? Many people suffer depression. Many people will take up habits which are not the best for their health or their well-being or their mentalness or whatever. And this is where your spirituality or your philosophy, and I can leave the word spirituality and just say your philosophy, comes into play. Because we all have a philosophy of some kind. Some people are pure cynics. I run into them. Everything is wrong, or it's never going to work, or it's this, that, or the other. And if you have a cynic bone in your body, please take a look at it and change it to knowing that no matter what it looks like, you will succeed. You will win out, so to speak. You will get to where you want to go. The path of life is very mysterious in a way. I have been so fortunate to have my tarot since I was 20 years old as a guide when I get stuck. Doesn't mean I look at it every day or what. It means that in times when I'm like, oh, what's going on? I can put the cards out. I can take a look. I can get an inspiration of, oh, okay, that's what's going on, and this is what I need to do. It's like having a way of checking in. Some people, I have friends who get messages all the time. Like, the messages are there. Well, I get messages sometimes, but mostly I have to kind of get myself into that position where the message comes clear. And because I don't know what you would call it, stubbornness maybe, have not always listened to those messages. Some of them, when I look back, if I had listened, I would have saved myself a lot of pain. But, I was one of these that they always thought I knew what I needed to do or what I wanted. Or it was really like what I wanted to do. And sometimes I had the thing like, don't do this. This is not good. And I would just say, oh, but I'm doing it. And then I'd look back a few years later and go, what did I do that for? Now I've got another big thing to sort out. Anyway, it's like, where do you get your inspiration from? Because we do know that there are going to be certain events in the life that you will have to deal with. Some you will create by yourselves. Some will be created for you. Governments make different decisions. Different laws come into play. Many of those kind of things, which are like way up, like you're just a little guy down there trying to figure it out. And you have to adapt. You have to adapt to these things. You have to change things. We just went through a big adaptation of things. I changed my whole life around because I couldn't see people anymore. I couldn't go any places. So now you have me on camera. But it's like I had to figure that out. I had to sit down and go, well, where do I go from here? And then I remembered, oh, yeah, I have this little YouTube channel. I used to put movie reviews up. Maybe I can start, which I did. I started off with my Wednesday morning talk. Now, of course, we have 3, and I'm considering another one. But anyway, because I enjoy them. It gets me out, because my life has become quite small in lots of ways. And this is my adventure out. And then all your comments and the emails I get and all the other things, it just keeps me alive because I'm getting up there now. And it's like life took a change. The death symbol means, now let's have a look at this. Let's go through the like it looks. A white horse, a man in a black iron suit coming out of a battleground. He's on a battleground. But he's got 3 people here bending down towards him. One's a sort of the priest, and one is a maiden who's turning away, and one is a child. So it doesn't matter what stage you are in life, no matter how much knowledge you have, change will come. And of course, there is the ultimate change when we leave our body and go on. But that's not so much what I want to talk about today. What I'm talking about is what happens when your life as you knew it changes. Sometimes through your own thinking, it will do that. And sometimes circumstances. No matter what, we really need to accept this is what's happening. What happens to a lot of us at that point is that we don't accept it because we don't want it. We might be afraid of it, whatever. We don't want it because we have our nice life walking along. Here I go again. Excuse me. We're walking along in a nice life, and then everything gets thrown up. And that's what happened to the majority of us just a few years ago. And we had to scramble around, figure out what we're going to do, how it was going to work. In some ways, life had set it up very well for me. Where I was living, other things were perfect for the situation, of course, which I didn't know was coming. So when these things happen out of nowhere, it seems, unless you're really smart and have your finger on the pulse all the time, is that you need to adapt. And it's a word we're not used to. What do you mean adapt? Well, you have to look at the circumstances and decide what you want to do about it that suits you. People change, people move away, people are doing lots of things. I just heard from a friend who'd made a move, and then now she's thinking maybe she shouldn't have made that move, but she did make the move. So now we got to deal with them in the present. Dealing with the present is the important thing, not the past. You can't go back. Once the transition is made, you're here. Now you got to look for the future and create and work with. And that's where my beloved card, the Ace of Cups, comes into. Using your philosophy. That knowing that there is a bigger power, that knowing that there is out there that you can incorporate into your life, that you can re-walk your life, you can recreate it, you can redo it, you can look at it. You see, there's nothing written that says life is going to be perfect, that you're not going to hit hiccups, or you're not going to have. I come from a horse racing country, and I used to love going to see the races, and the horses jumped over the hurdles. They don't seem to have that up here when I'm watching them up here. They're just, all I've seen is flat races, except if I catch, very, very seldom. In England, they have the big steeplechase. But it's like life, we have hurdles. How do we handle? Sometimes we crash and burn. Sometimes we get stopped. Sometimes the jockeys fall off the horses. Like there's a lot of things, but we have a tendency to believe that everything is going to be fine. And it is fine for a while. But what happens when it isn't fine? What happens when all of a sudden you can't go anywhere? What happens when you feel that, you can't see your friends, or you can't, which we know was a reality in your life. That's looks like it's kind of worked its way out now. What do we do? How do we adapt? How do we adjust? That's where our attitude to life comes in. What kind of attitude do we have? Do we believe that all things work out? Or do we think if something isn't right, then that's disaster, more disaster is waiting? All of these things become very, very important when you're moving through life, when you're, and I'm going to use the word struggling, because that sometimes feels like that, when you're struggling to adapt to newness. Some people take change like a duck to water. They just manage through it, understand it, and then there's a lot of us that kind of reel from it. Like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, it's like foreign water. It's like being plunked into another country with a different language. And if you've ever traveled and you're all of a sudden in the middle of a city where everybody's speaking a different language and you speak English, and it's like, what do I do now? Life can be like that, where all of a sudden it doesn't make sense. But what can make sense is the belief in the knowingness that there is a power, an energy, whatever you want to call it, that is there to support you, to love you, to help you. And that means you have to open your mind and your heart to receive the information, to receive the feeling of support, to know that if you ask, the answer will come. And the answers come in different ways. I have asked questions of life, and I've had the answers come from billboards, from radio programs, from newspapers, from people that maybe I didn't know even. You ever walk by something and overhear a conversation that gives you the answer to what you're wondering about? You are, I'm going to use the word vacuum, but it's like it doesn't seem like the right word. Hang on a minute. I'm trying to find you're a bundle. You're a bundle of energy that has a vibration. And that vibration, whatever it is that you're thinking, whatever the feelings are, is going out there like radio waves. You're a radio station. And what you're putting out is going to come back. But now we have a bigger radio station that's taken over the world. And we have to adapt to that. And now small wave has to figure out what to do with the big wave. And what I've always found in my life, when I feel with my back to the wall for any wave, or uncertain, what do I do now? Where do I go? What's the best thing to do? Ask. It's like a mental asking. It's like putting in how we put in a request on our computers when we want to know something. We go and we ask, and then the answer comes back. You ask. I've always found the answers there. As I said, I've seen them in all sorts of different, or heard them in different places. I remember once, for some reason, I was on a bus and I was contemplating a whole lot of things. My kids were in school, and maybe they were around 8 and 10, and I was beginning my spiritual studies. And I was posing in my mind a question. And I very seldom rode the bus because I could drive, and I lived right out of town. And for some reason, I was in town on this bus. And I posed this question in my mind, and the next minute there was a conversation happening for two people in front of me. And the answer that I was looking for came from these two people that were having a conversation, had nothing to do with me. I couldn't help overhear them because, the buses, they don't have that much room in between. But that conversation changed a lot of things in my life. Ask me what it is today. Can't tell you what the particulars are. But I remember taking a big breath, and when I got to where I was going, something had clicked inside me because I had the answer that I was looking for. We do not have to have all our own answers locked inside of us at this very moment. We do not have to be the magician of all things, but we do have to know, from my perspective, this is my perspective, we do need to know. We don't have to know. It's a need, I think, to know that the universe cares about you, loves you, and wants you to succeed. And as I say, when changes are happening, you need to know how to adapt, to let go beliefs, to let go attitudes, to let go people sometimes. Well, that happens. And people traveling in and out or leaving the body, etc. So it's all these things that go on, and you need answers. So where do you find them? I have picked up a book, opened the book up, the first paragraph, there's my answer. Like the answers are all around of us if we open and listen, whether we're reading, seeing, hearing, whatever. But when we close down, because it's not the way we want it, we are selfish beings. This is what we want. This is how we want it to be. And when I look back over my life, I can see where I made many mistakes because of that, of how I wanted it, and it should be that way. And it did, of course it didn't. And then I had other adaptations I had to make. I had to adapt to this, that, or the other. But then I learned a lot of things about how to handle life, how to handle these elements. Because in the death symbol, you're coming out of the war, we'll say. And now you've got a long stretch before you reach where you need to be. And that's what life is about. It's about transition. It's about accepting the journey that you're on. But if you have the Ace of Cups attitude, that the answers will come to you from your inspirational element, whatever it is, where are you looking for? As I said, billboards, sometimes I found answers. Just know that you are a part of all that there is, and that if you have, it's more of an inner journey than, oh, I want this, like here's my glass of water. I want my glass of water. We can do that. Yes, I want my glass of water, which is why before I went on air, I ran and filled my glass up because I knew my voice was often this morning was being a little bit weird. Anyway, type of breakfast I have, I think, is part of that. And so then it's like being able to be open to hear a different way or a different situation. Sometimes they come from amazing. Sometimes your friends give them to you. But be open and know that everyone is part of that. You might want to call it spiritual, or you might want to call it all the energy in the world. Everything is there. Every thought, every feeling, every awareness. But your life is in transition. And even when you think sometimes, oh, this is exactly what I want, I'm exactly where I need to be, something can come along. Happened to me 2 years ago, not quite 2 years ago, out of a diagnosis out of nowhere. And I've been dealing with it all the time. But it's life. It's to see how much strength you have, how much you listen, how much you believe, how much you want to go, because you will get to where you want to go, no matter what. During the week, Monday nights when I do mental mind treatments, I often pick up a little, what they call from the God box, which are insight cards. And the one I picked up, and I don't even think I said it on Monday, but this one is a little picture, and you might see that there. It's a man hanging onto a parachute. And he says, minds are like parachutes. They function best when open. And then on the backside, it says, the only prison we need escape from is the prison of our own minds. Well, I would totally agree with that. So I want you to take a look at where you feel you've got a need in your life that you're not getting, and become a little more open to knowing what it is you want or need, and then present it to the universe. Say, where do I find this? How do I go about doing this? And listen for the answer. But remember, I found them all in all sorts of places when I needed them. And even today in my life, if I'm not sure of something, and yes, I have my tarot cards I can go to. I don't always do that, but I do have them there. Because life is the experience. We are experiencing life for us and our growth towards that final journey that we do. And when in this life, our souls leave, because that's what's going to happen. Especially when you get older, you really see that getting close, and you just want to know that you're at peace and contentment within yourself. But it's looking for those answers when something isn't quite right, that you're in the desert, you don't know where you're going, what's happening, what next. Trust is one thing. You can trust the universe, trust your love, trust the sense of being, trust the direction that you're going in. Don't ever let go of your dreams, because they can become a reality. But remember, sometimes you have to let go of something for that dream to come into reality. And ask to be shown. What do I let go of here? What is it I need to change? And then the answer will come one way or another. And you will find the way in which you can transition and begin to welcome life's experiences, welcome the essence of being. So that's my talk today. And I wanted to thank Karen for tuning in and saying on my chat line, good morning. Yeah, it's an interesting day for me today, but because this at 11 o'clock this morning, because it's nearly 9:30 here, I go to see the therapist who's working on my elbow, and it's never super pleasant. But I am also looking forward to seeing if we have got more movement, which I trust we do. But it's always like life always presents a challenge, and it's like, okay, now I caught something in my mind. It's not that I believe I have to have a challenge. It's just that sometimes they show up, and when they show up, you need to deal with what that ever is instead of burying it, because a lot of people bury them. I don't want to know that. I don't want to look at that. Let it take care of itself. But the truth is, we take care of everything that we belong in. So that's for today. We'll be back on Sunday with a Sunday thought. So you just enjoy. Go outside, breathe. If you're where it's still summer, as I am, it's still nice weather. We got cold for a while. Now it's back warm. I like that. And yeah, be happy. Be happy. Give thanks. Giving thankfulness is or giving gratitude is a very big part of having things come in that add to your life. I'll see you on Sunday. Bye now.